I wanted to do this video on judging and assessment. So, there's a big difference when it comes to biblical judging and assessment. So, the Bible says, "Judge not, or thou shalt be judged," but it also says, "Beware of false prophets." So, we've got to remember that Jesus said that the old law is out of date, and we've got to also remember that in some translations it says that. And then we've also got to remember that, taking the plank out of our own eye before judging the speck in our brother's eye. So remember that when it comes to assessment, do it selflessly. Don't do it to uphold yourself or kind of help your small, gathering of your own above others and leave others in the dirt, sort of thing. Don't do that. Be selfless about your assessment, and never condemn, but be selfless about your assessment and how you assess others. And don't ever judge to build yourself up or to build your particular group up, and especially don't judge leaders, because you have no idea the burden of what it is to actually try and have the burden of punishment, of having to punish others and not know the consequences yourself. You have no idea what that feels like. And for a couple of very complicated reasons, I have a glimpse of that, and that is a huge burden. So, I was in a mental health ward for a bit, and I had a delusion for a couple years. Probably more than a couple years, actually. Some years, and it was where I thought I was a role in which I was supposed to judge in a certain way, and I thought I was judging ghosts, basically. Things like ghosts, I guess you could say. And I was hallucinating a lot, and basically I came to the conclusion where I was angry with society for how they treated the mentally ill. So my judgment was to them, but then God showed me what it would be really like to be a leader. And it is an incredibly difficult job to rule and have the balance in your hand of not knowing how much punishment is unmerciful, and not knowing if that unmercy will reach your door because of it, and not knowing how much justice is siring a trumpet if it is. So we have to have mercy for our leaders, and remember that it is an incredibly difficult job to be a leader of a nation. And it's very difficult to be a citizen too, but it's very difficult. You're going to remember that, if you're a parent and you've got 5 kids, imagine having 5 million kids, but they're adults, and then having 5 million people to watch over, or 10 million or 20 million, it's like, you have no idea what that's like, that burden. So, unless you do. So, this video is a little bit about that, but it's about that. But to all leaders out there, you also don't know the torment of being a psych patient. You don't know what it's like to have to get well by being tied up and injected by things with needles and hallucinate to the point where you cut your skin. You don't know what that's like. You don't know what it's like to not know if you're going to hell, because you if you hurt yourself, or and to then have delusions where the air temperature changes falsely, like temporary delusions where every nerve in the body starts to hurt. You don't know what it's like to think demons coming out of the wall and raping you. That's what I had to go through. So, leaders out there, I think you deserve more mercy than most. But psych patients go through oftentimes a nightmare scenario. So, please be merciful to us too. I did this video not actually meaning to champion the leaders, but it sort of went in that route because when I realized, talking about judging, I realized that kind of why the Bible says even that God gives mercy to leaders. And I think through my own experience, I've started to learn why. Why God looks favorably on psych patients, the very few groups were mentioned in Jesus' healing chapters, and in the Bible where Jesus healed, there are very few diseases that were mentioned being healed by Jesus, because obviously Jesus healed many more, but there's very few that were like highlighted in Jesus' healings, and psych patients were mentioned. So obviously there's been quite a few psych patients who've done amazing things. So I think that we need to strive for peace and stuff, and it would be great if we could reach out to countries around the world and have world peace. And I know that's not always possible, but man, would that be great, wouldn't it? Anyways, much love and goodbye.